My name is William. I am an addict. Like, real grateful to be here tonight. Through hell and rainstorm and sleet and whatever. Like, we do whatever it takes to carry this message. Before I start, I need to thank God. I need to thank you people in Narcotics Anonymous. I need to say, like, before I go on, man, like, I got a phone call before I got here. My sponsor called me. And he had shared with me in pain. He was crying. His father just died. So, like, he couldn't be here to, like, you know, sit here and walk arm in arm with me today, right? So, like, this meeting is going to be for him tonight. So the topic is unconditional love. You know what? I need to tell you, right, before I go on, when I arrived at Narcotics Anonymous, I did not arrive here with an understanding of unconditional love. I need to say, like, before I go on, like, everything that I have is a direct result of what you've given me. I need to say, as a result of showing up, as a result of getting a sponsor, as a result of, as a newcomer, having a sponsor who gave me 3 real simple directions: don't use, make a meeting, and talk about you. I'm not going to get all caught up into, like, trying to, like, carry a message that, like, don't have nothing to do with my experience. I need to say that in my area, when I'm finding out Narcotics Anonymous, that honesty is becoming attractive again. I need to say that it's becoming an attraction to me, and that I'm hungry to hear addicts talk about the pain and the insanity that they're in. And the reality of it is, I can respect you a whole lot more if you bring your sick, slimy ass in here, tell me where you at, instead of coming in and kicking some, like, real spiritual shit when you ain't there. So, like, that's who William is. That's who they call. So, like, I'm from the greater Camden area in New Jersey of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm, like, real glad to be here, you know what I mean? And, like, I came to, like, do something, and I'm going to do it.
All right.
That's where it's at. That's where it's at, right? So like, what I need to say is, like, there's so many things I really, like, wanted to talk about. And I asked God to, like, just touch any emotion, because, like, what I'm real in touch with in the Narcotics Anonymous convention is that, like, when I come to a convention, I'm pretty sure I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to take a risk and say that if you're in recovery, there is some issue that haven't been tapped yet. I'm going to take a risk and say that if you showed up here today, that you might be going around, you might be looking at the list if you got one yet, trying to find a meeting that can help you to get past the point that you're stuck. Maybe, like, if you're sitting in an unconditional love meeting, maybe you're wondering, right, or need somebody to identify for you whether or not you have arrived there yet. Maybe you might just be, like, a little bit concerned to hear somebody talk about their experience, because the reality of it is, like, I came here and I had unconditional love bestowed upon me, but I couldn't ID it. I had a grandmother, you know, when I arrived in Narcotics, now I remember before I came, I had this grandmother, and I'm talking about no conditions. And she loved me, and she gave me the money, you know what I mean? She said, you know, like, do whatever you can do, and when she didn't give me the money, I stole the money, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. But, like, even through all that, she still loved me. Even through all the slimy stuff that I did before I arrived here, she still loved me. You know, and I thought, right, when I got here, I want to say, like, I really believed that I really couldn't feel love. I wanted to blame the people in my family. I wanted to blame, like, my uncle for, like, molesting me, and then blame myself for, like, starting to like it. I wanted to, like, beat me up because, like, I started picking up a behavior from him doing me, and I started doing it to the younger people in the family. I want to say that I came here and I was caught up on feelings of, like, self-loathing, self-resentment, all type of fear of self. I showed up in Narcotics Anonymous without the ability to look in the mirror at myself. We talking about an unconditional love, and you know the reality of it is the steps take you to an unconditional love, and the unconditional love first has to start with you. If you ain't in the process, and you haven't arrived to that point in steps where you learn to look at yourself, love what God has given you, realize that the most precious thing He ever gave you in your life is you, then only then will you be able to unconditionally love someone else. So I'm telling you, the process of the steps was like, it talked about that. It talks about that later on the steps. It talks about now, right, about making amends. But first you got to make a list. And then it says become willing, and becoming willing for me meant that after I made the list, I had to get to a point where I could forgive the people who I thought had harmed me. And reality of it is what happened is I started realizing that my uncle only gave me the best that he had. He gave me alert and taught information because the reality of it was in my family, we didn't talk about stuff like that. So it just went on. Somebody's got to break the cycle. Somebody's got to start showing some love. And the only way we knew how to show love was to do things to each other. Because the only concept of love that we had was a physical sense. Only way, look, I showed up here, the only way that I thought that you could show me you loved me was if you slept with me. And if you slept with me and you told me it was good, keep coming back, I was all in. And when I'm realizing, like, when you give one person that much power, and you tell them and you let them make you feel like a somebody, what happens the next day when they tell you ain't shit? So like I'm going there. So like I'm feeling things. I'm showing up here, you know what I mean? And like I really didn't, like I showed up here afraid, but at some point I realized the only way I was going to get better was to like talk about what was going on with me. So I showed up in Narcotics Anonymous talking. And like I had, you know, I didn't like shut up the first couple years, but like I had this real euphoric 2 years. Pink cloud stuff that you thought I had. The reality of it was I had a lot of drama going on in my life. That's the reality. Didn't know how to talk about it. Looking for somebody to show me how. So what happened was, after 2 years clean, right, and like this is when a mess, right, and the reality of it, after 2 years clean, my wife left. After 2 years, after sitting up at a table with my sponsor giving me my medallion, with a bunch of balloons around me, a cake on the side, everybody saying we love you, then this beautiful person walks in the room and everybody says, yeah, that's the NA couple, and then 2 weeks later, she moved out. Now, when I got in touch with it, when I could see that I had finally started getting a concept of what unconditional love was, when I started chasing somebody that was free from me. I always used to believe, I used to tell, you know, I usually tell women this when I get them. I said, you know, like if you ever like mess around on me, it's over. Cause like I'll hate you and like you won't be nothing. But when I'm all in, when I done fell in love and I done hit like, you know, I'm on my knees, my feelings is on my sleeves, I'm completely vulnerable, and she left me and she got somebody else, and what I found out was I was powerless over my feelings because I still loved her. And I chased her. I don't know how to let go any other way but with claw marks. So since something's happening for me. So like now, what happened was as a result, my experience in this thing was like what happened was I had developed a friendship with a young lady in the fellowship who I wasn't sleeping with. And everybody in the rooms thought that we were sleeping together because like she looked good. And they thought they knew me. They had put a fixed reputation on me, but the reality of you can't give an addict a reputation because if you believe that addicts change, then how can you put one set reputation on somebody? Look, the question is, did you used to use and do you use now? If we can get all right with that, then we know that people change. So what happened was I had this reputation. I had the kind of reputation that like if I brought your girl home from a meeting, you was wondering what was up. I had the reputation. The reality of it was I was winking at your girl when y'all was sitting together, and I was going to coffee afterwards talking to you about how I was getting better. It was about a lie. It was about some acceptance. It was about still a little kid inside of me that's reaching out for love and don't even know how to accept it. And the reality of it is I don't know how to accept love until I learn how to give it. At some point, the barriers change. At some point, you start dropping the walls, and you start looking at black and white addicts and gay addicts and straight addicts. You start looking at recurring addicts and one lump sum and start realizing that we are all the same. At some point, you stop like talking about it, but like you really feel it in your heart. And the reality of it is, when you show up here and you start feeling it, it comes out. So I started doing that. So I developed this friendship, and what happened with this friend was she had started being there for me. She used to like write little cards and like come to my house and stick them in the mailbox and just would leave. And the cards would say stuff like, "We love you, William. You're gonna be all right, William. Like you can go on. Like the things that you're asking for, you're asking God for one set thing, and what you're missing is all the things that He's giving you. You're missing the fact that like when you chase somebody that don't want you, that you're giving them more than what's in your pocket, but you're giving away your dignity. You're giving away your self-respect and all your self-worth to somebody that doesn't want it. So like she started saying things like that to me, and she used to call me up and say like, did you eat, William? She used to call and say stuff like, did you wash your clothes? Because you know when you caught up in a grip, you can't wash. You can't clean, wash the clothes and cook a proper meal, man, you in a grip. And this person was there for me. I couldn't love anybody or love myself, so she gave it to me. She was the addict that proved to me what y'all say to a newcomer when you say you don't love me till I learn how to love myself. She was the one. And I'm like, I wanted to sabotage because y'all kept saying, y'all know the saying, men stick with the men and women stick with the women. So I started thinking, well, that means women can't help me. If you give that kind of information to a newcomer who's already fucking confused and shit, you're gonna make it worse. The reality of it is, when you start sticking to one half and start genderizing who you're gonna get your help from, then the reality of it is you're missing half of your blessing. So something started happening, people were saying like, what's going on? And I remember like really having this conversation with this young lady, and like she said like, what's wrong with me? Because she wanted a relationship, and she wanted this guy to like, be there for her and take her to the movies and all this good stuff. You know what I mean? Because we used to talk about stuff like that. She said, well, what's wrong with me, Will? What's wrong with me? And I remember the first time I looked at her and I said, nothing. It went beyond what she looked like. It went beyond what came out of her mouth. And even when she was like in a shitty ass mood, I still loved her. We talking about unconditional love. We talking about when you develop that bond. Everybody wants to be friends and everything. Can you be my friend? I'm William's friend. I heard William, I'm William's friend. You don't even fucking know William. The real William just showed up. How you gonna be my friend if you're not here yet? I'm not talking about with a whole lot of clean time. I'm talking about when a real person show up, then we can become friends, then the love can be unconditional. I'm not talking about that generic over-the-counter hugging when he's in pain shit. I'm talking about like somebody that was there for me. I'm talking about they showed me unconditional love. Fuck that, you can talk that shit because we are home group members and like we brothers, whatever the drama. This person showed me love. And from her showing me love, I began to learn how to show her love, and I learned how to respect her and women, and I started putting it all together, and because of that, I'm able to be in a relationship that I can respect the person. Because I came here, I didn't have a whole lot of respect for women. First off, right, I had a problem because like it was just my mother and my two sisters, and like every time she went shopping, they got 20 outfits, I got 10, I got resentments. They got away with shit, I got resentments. So like I didn't have a whole, and like something happens like when you like start seeing people come to your house, man, they're not your dad. So you start like using that stuff as reasons and excuses to use, and reasons and excuses to like not like somebody, but you don't know the situation. All you can see is what's going on the outside, but you're not willing to take the risk and come inside the door and see who they really are. So this was happening. So like me and this person developed a relationship, and what happened was we became very close friends, and a lot of people wanted to come in between that. And a lot of people started saying it's this and it's not that. And we went on it for a while because we knew what it really was. We knew the kind of relationship that we had. We knew that we were friends and that was it. So then when this guy came in life, he had a problem with it because the reality was he was just like me, and like he liked doing a lot of women, and then finally he wanted to change his life, and so he wanted anybody that acted like him out of her life. That's what he wanted. And he still wants that today. And so what happened was like I had a hard problem, man, and what I'm learning, right, with her I learned how to let go of somebody, get somebody, let somebody release somebody, because I'm like into taking hostages. I had to release somebody that was there for me all the time that I needed them because they needed to develop a new relationship. It's kind of like if you have a child and then you have a new baby, it's something about you got to put the older child to the side enough to nourish the new relationship. And I knew that I had to step back unconditionally, allow her to do what she needed to do, and like it hurt. And when I let her go, man, I was reaching out and I was reaching and clawing, looking for somebody to like be there for me like that. And I had all these generic relationships with people that would tell me they were down, like they were going to be there for me, but I found myself crying myself to sleep on most nights. I'm talking about after I just came and kicked it in the meeting about it's all good. You know, self-acceptance. What you want me to share on? It's all good. Then go home and cry. I'm talking about coming in here and telling you I'm crying. Look, man, look. I cried a whole lot of nights. Look, I thought as a man, like, it wasn't supposed to be about that. Thank God for the people that told me that, like, crying don't make you any less of a man. Thank God I finally realized that if you got a joke in your life that still can't cry and feel enough to free themselves, you need to get the hell away from them. You know, this is about, like, we need to, like, jump on that one emotion like you don't want to hear about. We need to talk about that one issue that, like, you just wanted to come here and dance off. We need to talk about that one issue that you put your tightest jeans on and shit that you might think, like, you could get a date for and shit. You know, that one issue that you want to substitute, you want to use something, because if we talk about in our area, we say the bag changes. So for me, the bag got like a short skirt on and shit. Pretty legs. Smile at me, tell me I'm all that, and I'm the shit when I'm not. That's what happens. We talking about like, the shopping all over. Spending all the money. Still acting like you're using and you're not. I heard the top before they said, like, if the drugs don't get you, the lifestyle will. I'm talking about, like, loving the people even if they stand out in front of the meeting practicing the same behavior out the trunk, drinking that root shit. I don't know, do y'all do that shit here, but like, that shit got alcohol in it. I knew this guy, man, he couldn't even he couldn't even perform if he didn't have that shit. Just ain't what the meeting about, man, but like I'm telling you, right, the reality of it is, right, when we talk about unconditional love, is that when you finally get to a point where you can see beyond other people's faults because you finally have realized that God is forgiving you for all yours, you understand that you're not here because you earned this seat, you're here on some unwarranted merit of mercy. All right. Come on. Now, we talking about we want to get this thing because we get to a point in steps where we talking about is our God, and then we realize that we have one God, one fellowship, one sponsor, one home group. Like, I don't like to blow your shit if you got 2 or 3 home groups, you know what I mean? But that's what it's about. Share shit in one group, share something else in the other group. We talking about unconditional love. We talking about it starts at home. We talking about anything that we don't appreciate, we lose. Now, as a newcomer, I came in here unable to balance Narcotics Anonymous in my home life. I really appreciated this. I really didn't appreciate that, so I lost that. The reality was I couldn't see the blessing. I couldn't see that I was being blessed with some unconditional love from a force that I didn't quite understand yet, but only evidence I could see was you were getting better. Because now, like, something's happening. See, now I've had opportunity since being here for a little while to experience unconditional love of another addict, so I know how that feels. I know how it feels like for somebody to love you and don't care nothing about how you look, don't care about nothing what nobody says, don't care, like when you acting out real slimy, like when you show up at the meeting with your slimy self, they still love you. I'm talking about experiencing one-on-one with an individual who can like love me even when like I'm like acting out, even when I'm doing newcomers and old timers and their sponsees and the people's wives that aren't in the fellowship, and like I'm walking around acting like it's all right. And people that'll step to me and tell me like something is wrong with that William. But I love you anyway. Please keep coming. We're not talking about the kind of love where you love somebody like in spite of. I mean, we hear that shit. We start running on cliches that ain't even in the literature. Well, I love you like just because I fucking got you. Ain't gotta love me. You don't love yourself. How you gonna say you love me anyway? So that's what happens. Like we got like I'm like trying to like I found out, man, and the people that I network with, man, and I have a real broad base, because like I have to. Because sometimes the help's not at home. Sometimes people who want to help you with all their heart, man, can't. Sometimes we don't have enough humility to tell each other with the unconditional love that we should feel for each other that like I don't have the answer just because my last name for you is sponsor. That happens. had a sponsor. People used to tell me, you acting just like your sponsor. That might sound good, but my sponsor was filling people's asses and shit. You know, something's wrong, like when you and your sponsor hanging out, and me and my sponsor was dating these two girls, and one of them wasn't his wife. So something's wrong with that. Sometimes look, I'm realizing you can get up out that hole that you in, but if you waste more time looking down in the hole at what you left behind, you won't find yourself back in the hole. If you turn your back to the hole and look at all the hope that's out there waiting for you, then you can find a new way to live, a new reality for yourself, and your feelings won't get you caught up. And it's like, I wish I was there, because the reality of it is they don't miss you. You want to like go back and check out on the block. Fuck the block, my first home group. Let's go back to the first home group, the beginners meeting. The one where nobody has a job. We can always be there at 12 o'clock because we have nowhere else to go. We ain't even praying for our kids back because we realized we don't want them motherfuckers. We did some steps. We got years of clean time and shit, and we still look like we just walked in the door. Only way we get something new is if we get a woman or a man in our life who goes and buys that shit for us. We still want somebody to help pay the bills and the rent. Can you like pay my insurance and shit? Fuck no! I'm talking about a big risk. I'm talking about let's get all in. Let's like do this for real. So like that's what happens. Me and my friend, we was just talking about a guy, like 10 years clean and shit, and like ain't worked since he been clean. And I'm like, I'm not gonna judge the guy, but I'm gonna say like if you're still doing the same shit you did when you got here, you might not be doing any work. This is a possibility. This is the shock therapy piece. Maybe if you still look like you did when you got here and shit. Maybe if your pants are still hanging off your ass like they was when you got here. Maybe you still got the hat to the back because you still stuck and fixed on termly cool, fairly hip stuff. That just maybe. Maybe you got a sponsor just like you, which means you're not growing. Because you done reached out for that one person that's just like you. They're just like you because they're sick too. Maybe you haven't get to a point. I'm talking about the process of getting out of that group where you're the sicker than most group to just sicker than others. This is what happens. It's a process. I'm not talking about I'm all recovered up. Look, man, look. I just found out it's got to be a good thing to be respected around here. I just found that it's got to be a good thing to be able to walk in the room with my head up and walk out the same way. And what happened when that process happened for me, see, we got a step. Now, like a lot of people miss it because like they do the step and then they just run to a sponsor or somebody sick in the bed and they drop it on them and shit. But it says, right, like go to God. Hold up, that's just part one. Then it says, do it for yourself. Can you look you in the eye and do that step? In the mirror. You don't even want to tell yourself that sick shit. You're just trying to like free yourself up, but you really ain't got no freedom yet. So if you missed the first two parts of shit, that's thank God, like this ain't a thing where you get to 12 and graduate. Then you go to somebody. By the time you get to somebody, if you realize that by the time you get to somebody, you done already took it to God, and you done already accepted the reality of it to yourself, then you're going to be all right with whoever you tell it to. Then you don't have to pick and choose who to go with to. Then like you can experience that unconditional love. The fifth step talked about that, about an unconditional love that you'll feel when you're like sitting there and you're spilling your guts and you're talking about all the drama that been in your life, because probably the first time all you did was like some type of drug along or some old drunk shit like they do, other places. That's what you do. You think I wrote my story. You write the story. You know that kind of like step you got when you're in a rehab and they tell you this is what it means, and you come out of rehab thinking you got steps in your life. You don't have no steps. You still ain't living that shit. You still don't know what it is. You really ain't surrendered. What are you fucking doing when your stomach is flipping? Are you still telling people with multiple years clean that you want to use? Are you still telling people with multiple years clean that you are using? I'm still sliding around. I just shared that I got better with that shit. Then I went out and I tricked. Can you come back tomorrow and tell us that? Can you stand up here and share something and help somebody, then come in here the next day, raise your hand, and say, I feel fucked up today? That's how this thing works. It ain't about me looking better than you or acting better than you. It's about you understanding I'm just like you. Still. I just can talk about shit that you don't want to talk about yet. It's all good, though. Because I'm getting better, and I'm able to help somebody. So, like, you know, what happened now, I need to talk about this, about, like, I was talking to a friend about, like, how I was so excited to get here, and, like, a lot of times people in the area, they want what you got, but they're not willing to do what it took for you to get it. So I was telling them, like, I'm going to Boston. So, like, I stopped in a meeting on Thursday night, and they said, well, what's up, Wayne, what's up? I said, I'm going to Boston. They're like, but it's going to snow. You're going to be stuck there. Is it really worth it? How much are they sending you a ticket and paying for your room? No. Well, why are you going? Because I need to. See, something happened. I had 2 years clean, and somebody asked me to come somewhere, and I had took some friends with me, and we were sitting there, you know, just like outside talking about some like bullshit that didn't mean anything. And like, so what happened was like something stopped and a shooting star went over our head. Now I never saw a shooting star, you know, except for like when I was high and, you know, you see shit. So, yeah, in the house, with the windows closed and the curtains closed and shit. You do, you see shit. So we started shooting star, man. Like it just blew my mind, and it just like silenced me, because at that moment I knew why I was there. So I went in this room, man, and instead of me sharing, cause like I like, you know, look, this would have said, look, I could go there. Came in here smart as at it. Found out you can be too smart to get this, but you can't be too dumb. So you like better get stupid. You know, be stuck on stupid and recover. There you go. So what happened was I'm in there and I go in the room, and instead of sharing what I had planned on sharing, because I rehearsed. Fuck that, you want to sound good? The steps say you still want to sound good when you're sick as hell. And this ain't no new shit, this ain't stuff y'all gave me this. I'm telling y'all, this all y'all. Don't get all pissed off at me. This the same shit you gave me. So like what happened was somebody had, we had sat in there, and instead of me sharing what I had planned on sharing, I just shared my experience. And I was sitting back, and I sat down, well, I was still sitting down there, because like I really didn't know how to stand for nothing. I was real insecure, and I was real unsure whether or not I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. And I sat down, and this one gentleman out of the crowd, he raised his hand, and he said, you know, he said, like, I showed up here because I had to, but I had no plans on ever coming back. He said, but like you said something. And what you said makes me just want to come tomorrow. Just one more day. Now maybe that don't mean nothing to you. What I'm telling you is that like part of being here, part of the healing process, man, is helping somebody else. Part of the healing process, when he said that, I started crying. Because like for the first time I had given somebody something that didn't come out of my pocket. For the first time I had given somebody something with a substance. It wasn't drama attached to it. It wasn't a condition attached to it. And when this guy said that, I realized, man, that like this was part of the process. This was part of like the healing process. This was a part of like service in Narcotics Anonymous. Like we don't need to like look at people and say just because like you travel around like something's wrong with you. Like the reality of it is I'm no more important than the person who make the coffee. But I'm just as important. Do you understand? Some people can do this one-on-one with their sponsor or sponsees. Some people could just shake their head and ID, but they can't talk about it, but they still get better. Because God put somebody here to talk about the stuff that we don't want to talk about yet. So like, you know, like that's what it is. I mean, like you don't like travel for like miles and miles, man, to like give a bunch of bullshit. I could have like shared some bullshit at home. I'd be more comfortable. You know what I mean? I know it's on TV because I'm from there. I wouldn't have to pay all this reality. Look, I got a plush ass room. I ain't gonna get it fucked up. You know, but I mean, it's real good. But I showed up here, man, because I needed to, because I'm still hungry. After being here for a while, man, I got hungry. Ooh. I want to share that too. I'm going to share that. It's talked about in the steps that when we carry this message and we're sharing with other addicts, that we need to have a passion. We need to feel it. It need to come from down here. I was sedate when I got here. I whispered when I got here because I believed that I belonged in the back of the room so y'all adults could take care of business. I had a really low esteem and I really didn't believe that I was worthy of saying anything, and nobody ever fucking asked me to come to another town and talk about how it was to use. So they want me to quiet down. They just better put me on a later meeting. We're next door with the record players or some shit, you know, share against the dance or something. I'm not gonna do it. I don't know how to do that shit. I don't know how to do that shit. I ain't gonna come in here and whisper to y'all, look, I like to do that shit, because sometimes, man, I like look at people like, damn, like she's like she kicked it. She was so calm and shit, like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I wish I could do that shit, but I can't, because it ain't me. So I can't do it, man. Might never be in Boston again. But it's okay. See you at the next one, somewhere else. You know, if that's the case. I don't think that's the case. But anyway, man, I'm really real grateful. So when I got in touch with some unconditional love, and I needed to say this right, like it was something that happened, and what I got ID with, we were like talking it, and we was talking about how like we was watching this movie, and it was The Wolfman. When we talking about an unconditional love. And we talking about, I know it was a time when I was using, and like when I was doing my thing, I remember really, really wanting to stop, and I really wished like somebody could like lock me in a room. Like held me up, like hold me back, because like if I get out of this room, I'm going to do some things that I'm going to regret tomorrow. So unconditional love was like having somebody that was willing to like try, you know, like how you do when somebody's kicking and you just stay there over and watch them sweat, but you don't let them leave like they used to do in the old days. You know, before the detox, and it's going to be soon after the detox, because they stopped taking us. You got to go in there and tell them you're a fucking alcoholic and shit for them to take you. I'm an alcoholic, because they only accept alcoholism, and they don't accept that we addicts. So they're starting to shut doors down and detoxes and rehabs unless you go in the door talking about you're alcoholic. So that's what's happening. It's going to come a day when it's going to take you to get somebody clean. It's going to come a day again. See, we haven't had the responsibility for a while. We've been like kind of laid back, you know what I mean, on that soft under the covers recovery, you know what I mean? And like we just like allowing like, you know, real good, come out of rehab, like you got a foundation, you've been like stuck out of the street, but the steps say like the sooner that we get back involved with our lives, the sooner we'll begin to recover. Like that's what's happening. And like I'm finding like a suffer, man, like, you know, like there's a lot of people in this convention. It's a lot of people here, but half of them are not in the meeting. I'm needing to say this, man, like what like am I here for? Like, you know, we can hit the diner after the meeting. But first, like, look, I'm like this. When I go in a meeting, look, don't come up and hug me while I'm listening and shit. You leave me alone like I love you, but talk to me after the meeting. Don't fucking come hug me while I'm listening to the meeting. Man, I'm trying to get this. I ain't got this. Maybe if you stop hugging me, you'll hear what the fuck you made me miss. That's what be happening. So that's what happens. I'm finding, man, you know, usually the wintertime usually chases them in. You don't want to be on a park bench when it's like 30 inches of snow outside. That's some new shit. Look, we just had 30 inches. I'm from Jersey. We got dumped on too. The rooms are still fucking empty. We trying to find a new meeting facility because we wanted to open some new meetings, and everywhere we went, they had some kind of like church or something going on. I'm like, damn, everybody's running to something. And then they going back out. I went to church, and I was on the corner in the alleyway before I took the tie off. That shit ain't work for me. This works. This works. You know what I mean? So like, I'm here because I'm grateful. I know grateful addicts don't use, yeah, we say that too. But grateful addicts show up when they're asked. Grateful addicts go to any lengths to like carry the message when they're asked. You know, I would have liked to like buy a new outfit because I could have bought a couple outfits for what it took me to get here. Need some new tires too. You know, whatever. I want to like hook the outside up. So maybe like I can like look better than I feel. I showed up here, man, so I can get better on the inside. I showed up here, man, so I can like give all I got so that my cup, I can pour my cup out so I can go out here and hit some more meetings and fill out with some new information. Then I'm going to go home and give it to them, whether they were here or not, whether they wanted to come or not, even if they talked about me or not, because none of that matters. See, I see beyond that. Usually when I'm talking about somebody, it's because I'm real envious of what they got. I really want it, but I'm not willing to get it. It's like that's what's happening. So look, I'm like real grateful to be here, right? And I really need to close this out. Yeah, I don't know this thing. That's why I walk around and shit. Don't touch stuff. Yeah. So I had told somebody this, right? And I was talking about unconditional love, and I was in this relationship with this young lady. You know, it was a shit. It was some kind of shit. And reality, you know what I mean? It really wasn't a relationship because both of us weren't there. You know what I mean? And when I met this person, and I really thought that she loved me unconditionally, and what she said to me was, she said, "Wham, you know, you would look real good if you like shaved your head bald like R. Kelly." That happened. So what I did was, I shaved my head bald. I got self-acceptance, but I shaved my head bald because this young lady said, "You look better if you had a bald head." When I like failed to be in touch with it, even though I knew it, was that I had real sensitive skin. So I looked good for 2 days. On the third day, my whole head was busted out. It happened. It happened for me. I'm kicking it. Go to my barber, like fix me. He looked at me and said, "Man, that's a bad case. I can't do nothing with it." I'm talking about I'm in pain, you know what I mean? And I'm getting in relationships with people who want to change me. I'm still dealing with people who are not all right with who I am. I still want to settle for anything that they want to like accept from me just because like I don't accept me. So that relationship is over because William got better.
That's right. Thank you. Come on, William.
William got a new relationship now. I'm going to talk about it. That's right, I'm going to talk about it. What happened was, as a result of all that pain, and when I found out, I kept going back to the familiar pain, and just because it didn't hurt as much the second time, I thought that my pain was relieved, and I thought that it had gotten better, but what I realized was my tolerance for pain grew. So, like you're wondering, and insanity is after having something relieved from you by your God, and then going back to it for another shot at it, the reality of it is you're not going to get any freedom to it until you cry another tear. Because it was a lesson that was missed there. So what happened was, as the process of doing that, because I did a whole lot of that, you know what I mean? I went back, and I finally got all right with the fact I didn't need to go back anymore. I wanted like some real help. I wanted somebody in my life. I started believing that I deserved the best and started reaching for the best. My expectations grew only because I was willing and able to give more, so I asked for more. Don't ask for shit you can't give. Don't expect somebody to do something for you that you can't do for them. So I got better with that. So what happened was now my door is open. I took the bars off the window. The front door, I got grass on it because I'm recovering. I got grass on the front lawn. The bike is out there because it's a safe neighborhood when you come in Williams' life now. And I allowed some young lady to come in my life, but she left. She didn't want to stay there. So I went and I cried some tears, but I let her go without the claw marks this time. Because I got unconditional love for me, I accept that. Like, if you want to be in my life, you can be. But if you decide to leave, I'm all right with that. Because I've been through some pain. I know that I continue to go on and I continue to live. It won't kill me if you don't want to be my life. So now the door is open. I become completely vulnerable. My feelings are like on my sleeve. My whole shirt is my feelings. Like it's out there. And I get somebody new in my life and we communicate. I'm talking about like how you start developing a successful relationship was before we started, when we started out, we started telling each other like what we expected of each other. What we wanted for ourselves. Because when I met somebody new, I was usually too afraid to tell them what I really wanted because I thought I might lose them. So I told her some of the things I was looking for and found out by taking that risk that she wanted some of the same things. Now don't get it fucked up, we argue. We go through shit. But I don't run when I'm done. When we argue, I can argue with her and still tell her I love her. We both stand for something. We get it out there so we argue about it so we can go to bed in a peaceful state of mind. I just can't deal with that carrying shit for weeks and weeks and then throwing that shit. Remember back in Boston and shit when you like said that? Come on, give it to me now. Let's get better with, let's do something about it because we can't grow until we get past that. If we still stuck on first step resentments, we'll never get to 12th step. I don't give a shit where your writing's at. So we talk and we communicate. And it's real good. Piss me off sometime, I piss her off sometime, love her most of the time. I give all I can give. I demand a lot, but I give a lot. You know what I mean? And I'm finding that's what unconditional love is. So look, I just gave like my experience on it. I really I always come with all the tools, all the weapons. You say choice of weapons, right, Rich? I always bring all the weapons because I really don't know and I'd be afraid of getting stuck. But I realized the day they asked William to share on unconditional love, he already had what it took to share on it. There was nothing I needed to study. We don't study this and then come give you a hit on some shit we studied last night. That's the reality. If I ain't live it, I would have denied. I would have told him I can't do it. No experience with it. Or not willing to accept. And I'm not copping to that part of my disease yet. You know, so that's what's happening. So I close the same way every time I close. And the statement is simply this, and what it does, it allows me to get my self-centeredness out the way. And the statement is this, it says that if you met William today and you forget William, you've lost nothing. But if you meet the God you understand today and you forget him, you've lost everything. Thanks for letting me share.